Really excited to have you back on the pod. We had you on in the past, kind of went through your past, present, where you're at, like your history and line work and all that kind of stuff. So if people want to go back and listen to that previous episode to learn about kind of who you are and where you came from in detail, I suggest they go do that. For now, let's get started with just give people a little bit of a backstory of who you are, kind of where you came up in the trade, and then we'll get into like what you're getting into in the future. But super stoked to talk to you again. You're definitely one of those guys, like I was just telling you off cam, one of those guys that I look up to in the industry. Honestly, like you're super passionate, super motivated, multiple business owner. You're getting the most out of life. Like you're going after life and you're doing it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So welcome to the pod again, buddy.
Well, yeah, man, I'm happy to be back. I enjoyed it the last time you're on. I think, what did we do? We named it Dream Big, Work Harder. It's like one of my slogans in one of my fitness centers. I'm living that dream. It's expanded quite a bit even since the last time I talked to you. I know last time I talked to you, I was catching a good stride, and we're definitely getting there. I'm excited to talk to you about what's going on. But quick backstory. I graduated college in 2007. I was going to be a teacher, but I really didn't want to go back to grad school in the state of New York. And I had your graduate degree to teach after 5 years. So I really didn't want to go back. Well, it's spent $50,000 to make $50,000 a year. So I had a buddy who was an apprentice, and I really liked to work, liked to be outdoors, and I applied to get an apprenticeship. And I was one of the first 18 hired when that started. I went through the apprenticeship in 2009. I became an lineman in 2012. I started chasing a bunch of big projects, big money all over the country. Eventually got a lot of experience being around helicopters. I got an opportunity to be on a helicopter. Did helicopter work for about 5-6 years until I started my own company. But in the mix of that, I started other businesses while I was a lineman. My first business was a fitness center in 2014. 2018, I started another fitness center. In between there was a real estate company. And then in 2019, 6 months after I opened up my second fitness location, I started KR Utilities with my partner. So we're going on 3.5 years now. We started with 3 trucks. We currently have, I think, 63 buckets and diggers. Damn. And we have over 140 pieces of equipment, 47,000 square foot warehouse. We got track equipment, skidder bucket, 4 vac trucks, you name it, we probably got it. Dozer, excavators.
So much to unpack there. What was your motivation, just for starters? What was your motivation to get into line work? You said you knew a buddy or something. Like what? How did that come across?
A buddy he was an apprentice. I was the second one out of us. There's actually 4 of us. We all played hockey together. We're North Country boys in the state of New York, right on the Canadian border, right next door to you. So it's pretty much hockey up there, in the wintertime. So we all played hockey together, and shortly after we all graduated high school, one of them got into the apprenticeship, and when I followed suit, then 2 more of them followed suit after me. You kind of saw it, the apprentices see when they get in or whenever you see a 7-step apprentice driving an $80,000-$90,000 truck, you kind of want a little bit of that. So, which we can talk about that. I think you got to be a little smarter with money like that, and I think I was. But yeah, he just had a really nice car, I was, working construction over the summertime, making $300-$400 a week, so I wanted more for my life, and that's how I got into line work.
What were you going to teach when you wanted to be a teacher?
Phys ed. I was going to be a phys ed teacher. I graduated with my phys ed degree from Cortland University in the state of New York.
So it's health and fitness, kind of like always something you're super passionate about.
Yeah, so that's kind of what progressed me to start the fitness center in 2014. I've always had a passion for working out. I believe like the values that you can learn through health and fitness, like it's something that has to be done every single day. So like, it's your lifestyle. Like if you want to be happy, you want to be successful, you have to put that work in every single day. You can't, no matter what you do, whether it be relationships, business, your body, it's something that has to be done every single day. And that's kind of how it all started.
What's your approach to that now? Like, what's your approach to your day? How does that look? I know it's like super chaotic and busy now with like 5 businesses or something, but like, how do you still maintain time for that?
I think no matter what you want, there's time for whatever's important for you. So it's progressed a lot. Obviously back when I first started, it was how much could I work? You know, how much time could I fit in a single day? When I started my fitness center, I was working for PAR in Pennsylvania. I was on a helicopter down in Pennsylvania working on the 500 kV job down there. And I was 2.5 hours from my house. If I got a rain day on a Wednesday or whatever, so we're done by, 8 o'clock in the morning, I would drive from Scranton, Pennsylvania, all the way to my fitness center, work until 10 o'clock at night. I'd get back up at 1 a.m. and drive back to fucking work the next day. So I put a ton of time and a ton of work. I worked 6-7 days a week, 10, 14 hours a day. When I built Lyft, it took me over 3 months to build it. I built it by myself because nobody wanted to give me any money back then. So you just had to put the work in, the work. It's changed a lot. Now it's people, how can I take care of people? It's about relationships, so things that progress. You have to, when you reach a certain point eventually where it's the people that matter. That's the thing that matters. So KR, we got an incredible director of operations now. I mean, the kid's way smarter than me. I'll tell people all the time that I'm an idiot. I will just outwork you. So I've hired people now that are a hell of a lot smarter than me.
Yeah. Yeah. That was always my approach to hockey as well. Like I played hockey quite competitively, and I was just a bull in a china shop, just outwork a lot of people. It was just in the corners with your elbows, like whatever you could do to grind a goal out, like scored enough goals, but none of them were beautiful.
That was me. I couldn't stick handle worth it.
Yeah.
So, and I would trip over the blue line, trip over the red line, but man, I worked hard. That's for sure.
5'9", 190 pounds. I was sturdy.
Yep.
So when you talk about relationships, do you think it was the grinding and the work, like for the young people that are starting out? I think a lot of people like expect that, to just be in the place you're at now, right? Like, oh, the relationships are all built, but like you got to put the work in, I think still.
That's a huge thing. It's, whether it be in my fitness businesses or even K&R, like fucking, I don't understand how people, they get into it and they want it now. They want it now. They play the short game. So I think of it, whether it be fitness or K&R, I play the long game in everything that I do. I will not take $20 from you today when I know over 10 years I can make $200,000 over you. I'm not going to fuck anybody, whether it be the fitness or K&R, over hundreds of dollars when I can make tens of thousands of dollars by solving problems and providing value. Everything will follow. Everybody wants it today. So that's like the thing. When I first got the apprenticeship, I remember seeing a kid, he was like a 5th step apprentice. He's driving a $90,000 truck. Like, play the long game. When I was an apprentice, I was driving a 1998 Chevy S10 single cab with 268,000 fucking miles on it. I was making $100,000 a year. Sure, I could have went out and bought that $70,000 truck, and but everybody stretches themselves so thin. They talk like, oh, what can I afford? What can I afford? What can I afford? Instead of playing the long game, where if you eat shit today, you eat shit tomorrow for a few years, like it will just put you on a trajectory path to way more success. I didn't really hit my stride until I'm 10 plus years in the industry, but I was doing very, very well, but I ate shit for a long time. I lived in an apartment that was the size of my pickup truck. I'm a journeyman lineman. I'm 28, 29 years old. I'm making $240,000 a year, and I'm living in a shithole. So those are the things that I think young kids coming through need to realize, that you don't need it today. Put your head down, be humble, learn as much as you can, learn whether the lineman that you're with is either making mistakes, you can learn something off that, or he's the lineman, pay attention, play the long game, and think about your future. That's what's going to matter.
I don't think that the kids, I keep calling them kids, whatever, call them.
Yeah.
I don't think they place enough value on the relationships they're making today and how that relationship can, call it even a benefit them tomorrow or 10 years from now, right? Like I see a lot of people just like shitting on people or treating people poorly. So say you get in the line trade, and, you're coming up as an apprentice and linemen rough you up, and now you're shit talking them. You don't like that person, but what's 10 years from now look like? Like, I guess where I'm getting at is like that relationship that you make today and how important that is and how important that could be to future successes down the road.
Oh, yeah. It's the number one reason why I am where I am today is because of those relationships. When I worked my ass off, like when I was, whether it be an apprentice or a young lineman, those relationships that I created 10, 14 years ago are what have got me the success that I have today. So one example, I was working for Hinkles McCoy on a 500 kV job in New Jersey, and I had a foreman there, and it's March, it's rainy, it's like 32 degrees out, and I'm up this 200-foot tower doing a fiber dead end on a ladder. The helicopter couldn't come out to land the ladder, so we had to pull them up with a truck. It is pouring. I got 2 first-step apprentices up there that have no idea what the hell they're doing, and I got 1 other journeyman lineman up there. Well, we could only get a ladder up to one side of the structure. I forget, it was how the setup was or whatever it was. But this lineman gets done, and on his side, I got no ladder on the other side. And we can't even get a ladder up over the structure. I forget why, but we couldn't. I ended up doing the dead end out of my belt with 2 apprentices. That other lineman fucking climbed down because he didn't have it in him to get through it. He climbed down, left me up there with 2 first step. So when that happened, that foreman, I eventually, about a year later, ran into him on the same job. He was a foreman for PAR on a different job. So, and it was like my first day there. And we're on the way out to the right of way. And he says, I remember the helicopter flies by. It was Winco. Winco flies by. And I was like, man, I would love to do that. He's like, well, they're looking for somebody. He's like, I remember what you did for me about a year ago with that situation with the fiber dead end. And he's like, I'll say something to the general foreman. A week later, I was on a fucking helicopter. It changed my fucking life. I was on a helicopter for 5+ years after that straight.
See, like that's what I'm talking about. That's like, so whether it's in line work or whether, I would bank on, put words in your mouth, whatever, but bank on the relationships you made in line work 10+ years ago have helped you in, your future job, building a business in line work, your gym business, people's lives matter, and they move in so many different directions. And you don't know how one thing you do one day is going to affect somebody doing something for you down the road. Like you said, help somebody out one day, 10 years later, 1 year later.
Yesterday for my next business adventure, I just bought a brand new 6,500 square foot building where I'm going to start a restaurant. And we go back about a year and a half ago, I had an FCC or bird dog, or depending, I guess, where you're in the country, what you call them, a utility rep. And he was an older gentleman, hell of a lineman. I mean, this guy just loved line work, had no reason to be out there anymore, but loved it, loved being around the guys. Well, I created a great relationship with this guy. I did my job well. If the guys messed up, made sure we went back and we fixed it, or we put the wrong connector on or whatever. I was always going back and making sure that this guy was happy, well taken care of, that we always did a good job. So I'm opening this restaurant. I want to open this restaurant. Well, his daughter owns restaurants and event centers or whatever. She has it made. She is a multi-millionaire, has 175 employees, which is incredible. So through creating that relationship, for me doing a good job, providing this guy value, solving these problems a year and a half ago, his daughter took time out of her busy day and drove an hour and 10 minutes to meet me at this new building and go over my ideas of my next business adventure. So a relationship that I created 2 years ago is now paying off today.
It's so important. See what I mean? Like that's exactly it. So you set your own life up by just essentially being good to people. Like if you're shitty to people, that's going to come back at you down the road, and in ways that you don't even understand, because it's a missed opportunity. Say you're Dennis Kelly with a great restaurant idea. Now nobody. You've treated everybody like shit. Now where do you go? Where do you start? Right?
I can talk about examples the other way. Like karma's a real thing. The law of attraction is a real thing. Anybody listening, like, you should go study the law of attraction. If you don't know what it is, you need to go out and find out right now what the law of attraction is. If there's something that you have in your mind that you can sit down and you can picture it every single day, you will eventually acquire it, or it'll become your reality. So speaking of stuff like, you want to go, let's talk about like being negative in that culture. So I've had people in my fitness centers. I had this one guy, he was a little prick. Like, what is wrong with you? So in like making a mess, you say something, has a come apart about it. He gets the Wi-Fi password somehow and he's changing the music. It's inappropriate music. You say something, he goes off his fucking rocker. So, so I own 2 fitness centers in 2 small towns, and my fitness centers are just like my other business. They're beautiful. Like, if you're going to somewhere you want to work out, you're coming to Lift. You're coming on one of my fitness centers. The other option is the Y, it's 50 years old, or you got this little tiny, hole in the wall gym. Like, you're not going to these other places. So this kid has a come apart, and I'm like, fuck yeah, get out. Like, you're done. You're never welcome back. He goes off his rocker. He's got a highlight video on Instagram named Dennis Kelly, like how much I'm a piece of shit and I don't know how to run a business and everything else. That is going to come back to bite that kid in the ass another year from now when he wants to come back, because he is into lifting and we have everything that kid needs to be successful. So funny story is he's actually driving to my old fitness center an hour away that I sold to my very first employee. Tells me I don't know how to run a business, but he's driving to the one that I built, that I designed, that I did.
Dude.
And we got plenty other ones. We've had stories where, they come in and they do nutrition with us, and then they put us up. They're not successful for their own reasons. They're not successful because they didn't put in the work. Then they blame us. So they give us this bad review or whatever. But then a year later, it comes full circle. They reach back out. I am so sorry. It was just me. You didn't deserve for the way you were treated. So treat people the way that you want to be treated. Don't get me wrong, in line work, there's plenty of times where,
in life, like whatever, like people need some heat from time to time. Stand up for what you believe in. Yo.
So there.
Yep. Gotcha. Stand up for what you believe in. You know what I mean? Like if you got to get heated with somebody, get heated with somebody. Just don't fuck somebody over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Don't be like a dumbass about things. Like, just do it right.
Yeah.
Treat people with the respect they deserve,
Yeah. And don't be afraid to face the problem too. That's the other thing I think a lot of people have issues with is if I have an issue with you, I need to talk to you. I need to address it so that I can clear my mind and we can move on.
Yeah.
A lot of people have issues with something or whatever. It fucking eats them up. They can't talk about it. So what they do is they just go out and trash you at other people or whatever it is. And they just live with that negativity and that feeling all the time. I do not deal with negatively. That is a bad culture to be here. And it's a cancer. So like if you're on storm, especially like so we run giant storm texts or whatever. I'll take 120 guys on an event. And if you send out a text where you think like, okay, I think this might upset some people and they're little keyboard warriors, so that they'll go off the rocker and it'll bring in that negativity to everybody else. So when that happens, like I reach out immediately and I squash the problem, but it's through a conversation or face to face so that we can better understand each other and like why this was said or why this is the situation, instead of people assuming that, oh, they're fucking us. That's not the case at all. And I will tell you everything and why this is what it is. But people are scared for that conflict, so.
I've been talking about conflict resolution.
Somebody or something, you need to face the issues head on and get it over.
I've been talking about conflict resolution quite a bit lately and how, like, just like you said, we're afraid to have tough conversations face to face with people these days. Social media has kind of bred this. And Jordan Peterson was just on Rogan's podcast recently, and it was like one of his best episodes on Rogan. And he talked about this culture behind social media and being this keyboard warrior, and how you can throw darts, throw arrows, and sit back and you have no stress about actually getting in a conflict, because it's like you can just do it behind closed doors. You're never going to have that face-to-face uncomfortable or that, like he uses this example. If you get a group of guys together, especially like guys get together and you can throw some digs at a guy, right? A little bit, a few jokes and, but like if you throw one or two too many and it starts to like eat at him, then now you're in a confrontation. Like you're going to get it back. You're going to get like the WTF. Let's deal with this right now because I don't want this anymore. But you don't get that online. And that's bred like a whole culture of a bunch of pansies that would rather just like go, like you probably see it in the gym all the time, like people setting up their phones and recording their workout and somebody walks by and now all of a sudden they're dissing this guy because they looked at them funny or something like that. Look at this guy's just checking me out at the gym. Like what a creep. No, he wasn't checking. No. He was like waiting for you to be finished doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I just saw something like that not long ago. This girl was the exact same situation to record herself and, was complaining about the guy way in the background about checking her out. And it's like, no, he's just waiting for you to be done. But,
so talk a bit about starting the business. So I'm super curious about like, so you're in like a bunch of random things. I know you have some experience in line work and then you have like lifting experience, but what was your experience like in running a gym, like starting it? Like, how does that even come about? Okay, I'm going to start a fitness center. How do you do it?
Yeah, had zero experience when I started my first fitness center. I think the biggest thing that you need really is just the decision that you're going to do it. If people think you need things figured out before you get started, you do not. You absolutely do not. Just, have a dream, and every day you get up and you put the work in and you figure it out along the way. We learned so many things along the way. It took a long time to get to where I am today. There's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of people that screwed us over. There's a lot of money where we lost a lot of money making, dumb decisions, thinking it was smart. But you just solve the problems as they come face you. There's no problem you cannot solve. That's the biggest thing you need to realize, that there is a solution out there. We live in an amazing day where you can just get on Google, you can Google, you can read books, there's plenty of people out in different, whatever space you're in. You can find somebody, a mentor, follow them. I used to listen to Andy Frisella all the time when he had his MFCEO project. Like that thing, he was on point, so many things. And then it's good reassurance too, when you are doing the right thing and you're listening to somebody like him, you're like, I'm already doing that, So I didn't know nothing. When I first got started, didn't know nothing.
So walk me through that process then. Like walk me through that process then of starting. I'm super curious. I've thought about it in my area as well. I live in
I'll tell you how it started. I had stuck framed. Oh, I have it framed right here. This is how it started. That hand-drawn logo right there. Damn. So this is the name of the last podcast, Dream Big, Work Harder. But that's what it started. It was just an idea. It was just an idea drawn on that piece of paper. And we went from there, and then we had to, find a space. And then you had to find where am I going to get my equipment? How do I actually start a business? So then, you reach out to an attorney or you start an LLC. What's it going to be called? Then you have to find an accountant or a bookkeeper. A lot of that stuff I actually did when I first started because I didn't have the money. I was denied a loan to start left. I had $80,000 saved. I went to a bank. And I was looking to borrow $120,000 for the equipment, the bare minimum equipment that we had. And that's another lesson we learned, is that we went through a third party. So I paid 30 to 40% more for the equipment than if I would have went direct. But I didn't learn that until way after. So, it's just what you know what you want to do. You think about what you want to do, but there's a problem with it. And then it's like, how do I solve that problem? So like when I couldn't afford stuff, I just figured it out myself. I did the bookkeeping at first, it took me way longer because I didn't know what the hell I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. That's when it comes to, now I pay people that are way smarter to do that kind of stuff. But, and you got to do, and you appreciate it more when you do the work yourself. Like I know where I came from. It's a little different today. I can afford people to do stuff now, but I know what it takes to get there. When I started that fitness center, it was a ton of work. Denied a loan. I was asked for $120,000 and I was denied, and I did all the work myself, every bit of it. Built the locker rooms, hung the sheetrock, did everything, laid the floor, did it all. And
how did you know, like what size space to start with, what gear to buy, like how to get, you just from your experience working out in gyms, you kind of got to feel for this?
So I was, as a lineman, right? I was always in the fitness anyways, but when I would travel as a lineman, I go to a gym. I like this, I don't like that. I go to a different gym. I like this, I don't like that. So how the original Lift was created was through experience of going to all these other places. So I like this, I don't like that, and I built a model where Lift could be for anybody. Whether if you're 80, you can come in there. If you're 20, you can come in there, male, female. I'm into CrossFit. I'm into, powerlifting. I'm into just walking on the treadmill. You come to my fitness center, it's for everybody. So that's the approach I took for the fitness center. But
how many people does it take to make it operate?
Well, I learned a lot. We operated a lot different back in the day when we first started. Now, one person.
Damn.
So it's on autopilot now, for the most part.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like I've solved problems over the years. So that was always one of my biggest problems was employees. They weren't playing the long game. They want it now. They have no idea what it goes in to take your, building something like that, or how much money it takes to do that, or how much expenses go out every single month. Say a personal training is $100 an hour or whatever, and they're only getting paid $25 an hour. Like, they're pissed. Why am I only getting $25 an hour? Well, rent's $7,500 a month. The equipment payment is $6,000 a month. The utility bill is $2,000 a month. Insurance is $1,000 a month. Like, they have no idea what it actually takes. So we've had people screw us over. In time, I had 2 employees steal from me. I don't know if we might have talked about this in the last one, but we learned a good lesson from that one. So that non-competes came into play after that, and non-disclosures came into play, and all these contracts came into play. Like, I learned my lesson. But now, after COVID, when COVID hit, I went to a almost employee-free model. I have 1 employee now at the fitness centers because it operates so much better. There's no more headache. And I developed that culture. So I opened illegally, I guess you can say, when during COVID, because I didn't think it was fair. I think that, why is my life any different than somebody else's? Like, I deserve to work. I deserve to living. I didn't need the fitness centers to be open. Obviously, I was a lineman. I had K&R, but I didn't think it was right. So I was standing up for what I thought was right. I opened my doors, but I went to a system where the doors are locked 100% of the time. Now, members have an app on their phone that unlocks the door, and they literally hit a button, unlocks the door. So I developed a culture where I didn't need employees during COVID, and realized that I can save a ton of money here. I can get rid of headache. Employees are not going to call in sick anymore. They're not going to be late anymore. I'll just go to this different model, and now I can buy more equipment or do whatever else I need to. I can put more money back in the facility. I can pay it off earlier because I was saving so much money on payroll. Another problem I had was, somebody being there to sign somebody up all the time. I used K&R, so another relationship that it was different than fitness, but I had one of my employees at K&R create a PDF contract where now I just email the contracts out. I can grant you access through the app, sitting on the couch. You can fill out the contract on your couch. You don't even have to come in to sign up anymore. So you become a member. That will pin a welcome thing to the board when it's all done. You're a member. Don't even have to see you anymore. So,
damn,
they work
just
so
problem solving, like you said. Just like things come at you every day.
Any young kid coming up through here who wants to make money and be successful, solve problems and provide value. The money will follow. Don't chase money. I'm going to solve problems and I'm going to provide value, and do more than you get paid to do. I've never taken a paycheck from my fitness centers ever. But the relationships that were created during that time just led to something else, So since I did such a good job, with Lyft, that gave me the opportunity to start another Lyft. And then since those two fitness did so well, that gave me the opportunity to start K&R. Do you think if I would have started K&R first, the bank would have gave me $500,000? Absolutely not. There's no fucking way we're giving you $500,000 for this. You have no idea what you're doing. And that's what they did when I started Lyft. I started small. They said, businesses like yours fail within 3 years. You have no experience. Denied. I was denied for my first line of credit, which was like $10,000. And this is after I'm already open. They denied me then, but I just keep going. It's small steps. I tell people this all the time, that small steps will lead to miles over time. You do not need to accomplish it all in one day. We went from, a $10,000 line of credit to a $50,000 line of credit, to a $100,000 line of credit, to $1 million line of credit, to a $10 million line of credit. You have to take small steps to improve yourself.
And don't give up just because you hear one no. That's, I've found that, in especially when you're talking like money and finances and banking, like I've got a crazy debt to income ratio with ex-wife and kids to pay for and that sort of thing. And so I go to the bank, try to get a mortgage on this house. I've got to buy a new house. I got to have somewhere to live. So I go to the bank, try to get a mortgage. No, your debt to income ratio is too high. Okay, fine. I'll take all my cash. I'll just buy the house, whatever. I didn't want to do that, but let's do that. Pay for the house with cash, pay for the house. 2 months later, go back to the bank and I'm like, hey guys, I've got this house. I own it. Can I get a line of credit on it? They're like, oh yeah, here you go. Here's 65% of the value of your house. Here you go. I'm like, what's the fuck difference? Like, why couldn't you just do this before and let me keep the cash? Now we're just trading dollars here. But anyway, just do things a different way, right?
You get to a certain point. That's one thing that is not taught. What I wish was taught in school was finances. But like even credit scores alone, people don't realize what, that those 3 digits will do to your life. Dude. I have over an 800 credit score. I can tell you that is those 3 digits are the 3 most important numbers that you'll ever have in your life. Yeah. So learn how to, get a good credit score. Don't buy things you can't afford. Do not put things on credit cards. People don't realize you need to keep your limit on a credit card. Say you got $100,000 limit on a credit card. I know those are big numbers, but 3%. I keep under 3%, so $3,000 or whatever it is. You want to be underneath 10% and never carry a balance. I've never carried a balance on a credit card in my entire life, and I didn't really get into credit cards until I got into business. But then I realized I saw a direct impact on my credit score of how I was using credit cards. So I would use, whatever in my regular residential house or whatever, my day-to-day life, credit cards. I do not buy anything with cash ever. Yeah. So I go to the grocery store. I get 6% back, So at the end of the year, I got groceries for free for 2-3 weeks out of the year because I used a credit card.
Travel points, anything,
Yeah. On my personal credit card, I have over 1 million points just on my personal credit card. That's over $10,000 worth of free stuff just for using my credit card. But if you use a credit card and you carry a balance month after month after month, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than 10 grand.
It even reflects like when you go back to the bank to ask for money, like you need, you want a mortgage, you want this or that. That's the shit they look at immediately is like, oh man, you have a balance.
75% of your limit. You almost maxed out on your credit cards. Yeah. You don't know how to use money.
And you've been doing this for the last 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not really going to trust you here.
Paying the minimum payment.
Yeah, exactly.
Take you 30 years to pay it off.
Super interesting, man. I've thought about starting a gym, and it's been something I think about a lot of things. I've got one of those brains. I live in this like little small town off the side of a bigger city with like the gym I go to here is just like a shitty little Anytime Fitness. It's like 900 square feet, has barely any gear in it. Like there's that, or just a local community center that's, kind of old and whatever.
They're almost the identical markets that I'm in.
Yeah.
I got 20,000 people in the town. The other one's got about 14,000 in it. Both fitness centers have, I think, one's got almost 500 members. The other one's got right around 600.
And you'd say it's successful now? Like you've got her dialed? So that's...
First fitness center was 7,200 square feet. And then the second one is 10,000 square feet. Paid off the first one in 3 years. The second one will be paid off at the end of this year. It'll be year 5. Well, that one was a little bit more and everything like that. It took me a little bit longer, but which, like, remember again, you got to be able to play that long game. If you want it to pay off, do not do it to, I want to draw a paycheck next week.
Totally.
3 years, maybe 3 years from now, you can draw a paycheck. 5 years from now, you can draw a paycheck, but then it'll be successful. If you go into it thinking you need the money, you won't be successful.
I think you're right on that, because you need to go into it looking at not the money I can take out of it, but like, what are the other benefits that are involved with me owning a gym? Like, does this attract the people that I want to be around? Is this going to uplift and benefit my life in a positive way? Am I going to be able to use this to meet and build relationships with people that are going to then help me do other things in life? Am I going to be able to like have write-offs through this that, I get my truck paid for? Can I get my fuel paid for? Can I get, you know what I mean?
I have a Tesla, and one of my fitness centers pays for the Tesla.
Yeah. See, classic example. So you don't need the cash, and you got to stop, for all you out there listening, you got to stop thinking about it that way. Like, stop thinking about it in the terms like you would think about working your everyday job. Like, I go to work a 60-hour week or an 80-hour week or whatever, 40-hour week, whatever you're working, and you're getting a paycheck for that, and then you're taking that cash and you're buying stuff. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different with business. And that's what I want people to understand. Business is a good thing. It creates more,
it is.
For yourself.
There's a lot of write-offs in business stuff people don't realize that you can take advantage of.
It's about quality of life and like how you want to live your life, and stop thinking about attaining cash to pay for things, like audit your life and what you actually do in it. Like, okay, you eat food, you drive cars, like how can I pay for this shit without working an hourly job, earning cash to pay for this shit? That's kind of what business, to me, that's where I think about business. It's like, okay, I've got this gym now. I can get a Tesla, or I can get like blast my logo on it, and
it's in time. The biggest thing with that is like in time you can, but like, so even, and there's a lot of things you learned along the way. We can talk about my car if you want. Sure. Because that's a good example. That is actually under an LLC. Even my Lamborghini, I have a Lamborghini. Yeah. It is under an LLC in the state of Montana. So, and we can talk about it.
Okay, explain.
So in the state of Montana, you don't have to pay sales tax. So through relationships that I've learned in other places, when I got my first Lamborghini, I started hanging out. You were just talking about people you meet in the fitness center, and this is a little bit different, but it's all the same. So I've met plenty of people in the fitness center that have given me a relationship, whether it be accounting, a lawyer, attorneys, whatever it may be, to help me with my next adventure. People you wouldn't even think, or say contractors, or whatever you want to do later. You're meeting these people, creating relationships. Oh, I know somebody that can do that. And so when I bought my first car, I bought it. I registered it in New York. I paid like $25,000 in sales tax for my first car. Like, that's a lot of money. So when I got that car, I started meeting other people who had, Lamborghinis or Ferraris or whatever else. It's a small group in Western New York. There's not a ton of people. But one of them had Montana plates on it. I'm like, why do you have Montana plates? You live in Western New York. And boom, told me what to do, how to do it. Saved me over $40,000 on my next one, And for everybody listening, I just want to let you know, you do not have to be rich to have a Lamborghini. You just have to be very, very smart with your money. You have to be able to acquire one. I made $140,000 profit off of my first one because it actually appreciated. Cars like that, most cars, if you get the right car, are going to appreciate. At the very least, it may cost you $30,000, $40,000 to drive the car for 2-3 years, and the $70,000, $80,000 truck that you buy is going to cost you $30,000-$40,000 to buy anyway. So I made a bunch of money off my first car. I bought another one, a little nicer one, and I'm still driving that one today, but it'd be the same thing. I'll drive that car for 3 years, and it may cost me $30,000 to drive it. So I'm not rich. I just I was able to acquire.
So that's how you. So when you look at purchasing a liability, it's called a car a liability, even though yours appreciate. So keep be considered an asset. But when you look at purchasing that thing, do you look at purchasing it with like cash from your bank account, or do you look at how do I purchase like an asset in order to purchase this liability? Like the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad method. Like
Yeah.
at first I got to acquire an asset, build that up in order to purchase that liability. If that's what I want, is this nice car, this house to live in, or whatever that said thing is.
Yeah. So, I've acquired things a lot of different ways, honestly. I think, you get to a point where you can leverage a lot. Like I got to the point where I use different banks against each other. I have massive lines of credit. I have lines of credit. That's one thing I've always been able to go out and have money available to me way before I ever need it. If you're going to the bank when you need money, good luck. They're going to look at you a hell of a lot harder when you're going to the bank and you need money. And when I go to the bank, I don't need money. I'm looking 5 years ahead. When I started K&R, I didn't have, I think I started like a $300,000 line of credit with K&R. It's, it's tens of millions of dollars now. But it's just every time I went, I was just getting ahead. I try to look at the future, like what am I going to need later when I have 200 guys going on storm? And it's the same thing with the fitness centers. I have lines of credit in the fitness centers, like for what? Why? My interest rates, because I've been able to be so successful, my interest rates are prime -2. I'm 2% less than any Joe Schmo's going to go pay. So I can get a loan, I can refinance it, I'll pay cash for it. There's a ton of different ways that I have paid for things. When I first bought my car, I used one of my lines of credit originally, just because I used it as leverage, as a negotiating tactic with Lamborghini dealer. I'll pay cash for that thing, But then 2 months later, I just turn around and get a loan from the bank. It's the same thing. I just bought a building that I paid cash for. So what I'll do is I will put some money into it, and I'll go get I'll refinance it and get more money back. I won't pay any of my own money for the building. I'll use the bank's money eventually.
Exactly. That's so like and that's what I think a lot of people's issue is they'll purchase a house. That house will, increase in value over a year or 2 years. Say it increases in value. You go back to the bank, kind of refinance that, borrow money, instead of going and buying your pickup truck with it, or buying a trailer, or like wasting it on a pool or something. Turn around and think about how you can reinvest that in something else that's going to help you make more money, instead of like just wasting it away, right? And then having to work your everyday hourly job just to pay for that from now till infinity.
Yeah, any apprentice out there, don't go buy Sea-Doos, don't go buy motorcycles. Stay away from that shit. Don't think about, what I can afford, my monthly payment. Think about what you can actually afford, instead. Like, I can pay $3,500 a month. Don't think like that.
Let's talk a little bit about the restaurant. I'm curious on that too. Is the restaurant something you've always wanted to start?
Yes. And for some reason, I know the restaurant business to everybody, especially people who don't know. So if there's one thing I've ever learned in business or whatever, is everybody can do it better than me. Like everybody can do it better, whether it be my fitness center, K&R, linemen for some reason can run the company better than I can, but they haven't started it themselves. So it's the same thing with members of the fitness center. Oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. Been there, done that, tried that, didn't work. So, yeah, I've always wanted a restaurant for some reason. I think it's not my space. I will say that it's definitely not my space. I don't know the day to day, but one thing that I can do is I can build an incredible platform. I know what people want. I know how people want to feel when they go somewhere. I know how they want to feel after leaving, or, say they come down to sit down and eat. We've all done it. We've all went to a restaurant, ate. You get up and you leave and you're like, fuck, that was terrible. That was terrible. You know how to make people feel. And that's what I can do, is I can build an incredible platform and incredible space. I will get it done. I don't need money from it, so I can make it more successful for that reason, because I don't have to draw a paycheck from it. So I'm super excited about it. It's I live in the wine region, the Finger Lakes wine region. It's very popular. They say it's like pretty much like Sonoma here. We have some of the best Rieslings in the world. So my idea is I want to have as many local. There's like over 200 wineries in this region. So I want to have as many local wines as I possibly can in one spot. So I'm a one-stop shop for, whatever winery. Oh, you like this wine? The winery is right down the road. You can go there yourself. You can taste I want you to be able to taste a bunch of stuff at my place. And then I want to do the same thing with craft beer. I want to have a bunch of craft beer on tap. Same thing. There's a bunch of craft breweries around. Oh, do you like this? They have a place right down the road. And then my menu, I want to keep it simple. One page, one well-done steak, one well-done chicken. Everything needs to be perfect. You don't need to have a 6-7 page menu where you're thumbing through it. You have limited options, but those options are done extremely well. So when you have it, you leave with a good feeling. That was great. It was simple. It was well put together. Nothing's complex. You don't have a million things in the back. So I think it'll do well. I just had a very successful woman in the industry come out yesterday, like we said, and she said I'll kill it. If I do it right, I'll kill it. So I'm excited to see where it goes. We'll see.
So when you look at this now, like, do you look at bringing a partner on, or how do you find, like, who's your number two, and how does that work into your business plan?
Yeah,
is it just an employee that you pay, or is it a partner?
Yeah, so I'm at the point in my career, my life, with everything that I've got going on. It's 5 different businesses. This will be 6. It comes down to the people. Like, I'm not starting this. I own the building. I'm not starting until I have the right person in place, and I will pay for that right person. I will pay anybody. If you're worth $100,000 a year, I'll pay you $100,000. I'm not going to screw you. Oh, I'll pay you $60,000. No, if you're worth $100,000, I will pay you what you're worth. So if you're worth $200,000, I'll pay you $200,000 a year. So I'm willing to, if I find the right person, I'm willing to give them profit. I'll give you some ownership after 5 years. You've proved to yourself that you're in this for the long game with me. I'll give you ownership of this thing in 5 years. That's where I'm at in life. If I'm going to start another adventure, whatever it may be, it's about the people, and what I can do to take care of them so they can take care of me in the next thing that I'm going to do. So I'm looking for the right person for this, and I won't start it until I have the right person.
That's interesting. I live in Kelowna, British Columbia, and this is, for BC, we consider this wine country as well. It's a lot like Napa Valley. Like, the climate is like that kind of drier desert type climate.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons of wineries. It's wine country for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. That's neat. I've had an idea about craft beer and sliders. So like you were saying, just like keeping it super simple, almost like a slider bar, like burger bar, where you can get like just different styles of sliders. So one of my pet peeves is going into restaurants and ordering burgers. Like, I like burgers like everyone else does, but I don't want to eat one giant burger that's the same. I like sampling, right? Like, I like a tuna steak burger and a regular burger and a chicken burger, like whatever, crispy chicken.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, just doing sliders, and you could pick and choose different types of sliders and fries. So it's super simple, but they're like done gourmet. Like, they're done freaking, you're walking out of there going, that was the best food, best burger I ever had.
Yeah.
And mixing that with like a craft beer tap, and I don't know, so that'd be super interesting to start. And like, I like your approach, like keeping it simple.
I think that is honestly, like, people make things way too complicated. Like, complicated is not, it's not right. It doesn't need to be complicated. The simpler you can keep the process, the more success you're going to have, no matter what. It's the same thing with my fitness centers. They are simple. They're simple, but they're clean. That's how you need to operate if you're going to do anything. So keep it simple.
I think people get caught up too. So I'm interested in your perspective on this, is like, get caught up in having to do it themselves. So say you're me, like, got this idea of starting a restaurant. I want to go out and do this. It's not, you don't necessarily have to do everything. Like, I think people get caught up in that. Like, oh, I gotta cook the food. I gotta learn how to do that. I gotta learn how to, serve the tables. I got to learn how to do the accounting. I got to learn how to,
Yeah.
you don't have to. I don't know. Maybe in the beginning, you got to have a hand in it all, but there's something to be said for finding the right person, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
paying them what they're worth and
Yeah.
leaning on them for their expertise.
Yeah. It's so different with K&I right now. You know, I'm just a dumb lineman.
Yeah.
You know, I may have started K&R. Me and my partner may have started K&R, but there's somebody that's way smarter running everything now. You know, that's just where it gets to. You start small, you start simple, and things just progress. And then you're faced with a problem, and then how do I solve that problem? Well, this guy right here can solve this problem. This person can solve this problem. You know, this product can solve this problem. That's how it becomes. You know, I did do everything when I first started to finish there because I didn't have any money. You know, I didn't have any money to do it, so I had to do it. You know, and that's very valuable for sure. But the more you progress in life or in business or whatever, you have to have people, and that's when it comes down to those relationships again. So,
Talk about starting K&R. Like you said, just dumb lineman. every lineman out there, if you're a lineman, this is run through your head like, oh, I'm just gonna start my own. I'm gonna start my own.
I can do it myself.
Yeah, if I can do it myself.
Good luck. Good luck. Yeah. But
talk about that experience.
So I started K&R in 2019 with my partner. So we'll step back just a little bit. In 2018, when I started my second fitness center, it was in this town where it was like the next town over from my first fitness center. Well, I was traveling the country as a helicopter lineman at the time. I was all over the place. I was in California. I was in Idaho. I was in Pennsylvania. I was all over the place. So when we opened up the doors to the second fitness center, there was a call for a J out in that town for a small contract. When I got there, it was a shithole. I was like, I'll take this call so to make sure that lift gets started right in case there's some problems or whatever. I can be there. Well, I took the call. There was one other lineman there. There was like two groundmen there. They had trucks from 1995. It was fucking brutal. I was like, I am not going to last. I told the other lineman, I was like, I am not going to last a week here. Well, the owner, he was great. The guy's great. His wife is great now and everything. He was an old National Grid lineman. And I wanted something. Didn't have nothing. You know, I remember going out the first day and using the hydraulic drill in the bucket, and it didn't work. You know, like, how the hell am I going to do this? You know, there's no battery stuff on the thing. I was like, I came back in. I was like, you better get me a drill. I won't last another day here. Next day, he got me a drill, you know, and anything I asked, he got it for me. He believed in me, I guess you could say, a little bit. And he got me everything I asked for. They didn't even have road signs. They're trying to do line work. I mean, you know, they didn't have road signs. You know, he was fortunate. He got in the state of New York. We're doing a lot of make-ready work for fiber companies. I don't know if you guys do that stuff out there or not, but so he knew somebody, got the approval through the utility to do it, and he didn't have any money either. He just, you know, that was his dream to start the company. Well, anyways, get started. I take over the work about 3 months later, and then we're growing. He's growing. He's buying new trucks. He's renting new trucks or whatever. And then my partner and I, we went out and bought 3 trucks. We were going to set poles for the fiber companies just with the trucks. And I was on my way to a flight lesson, which is like 45 minutes away from where I live. And I drove past the show up of a big contractor, and they had like 30 bucket trucks there. And on Monday morning, I went to the owner of the company and I said, how about you let us team up with you so we can take on the bigger boys? And he went home, spoke to his wife, and agreed. So we pretty much grew 2 companies at the exact same time. That's how K&R started. So I just provided so much value to him that he really couldn't tell me no. He couldn't say, no, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to, you know, do this myself or whatever. Because eventually I just would have left. But he gave me an opportunity that I was looking for, you know, through the value and the problems that I solved. I made him a lot of money to start. And that value was worth it to him to give me my opportunity, which was great. We put a lot of processes in place together. You know, my company ended up doing 100% of their bidding. They had this guy, this engineer that was screwing them. screwing him. We got him out of there. We brought his wife in. Like, we just solved so many problems. And that's really how K&R started. We left them not too long ago because both of us have gotten pretty big and it was time to go on our own. They're amazing people. I'm very happy and thankful for the opportunity, but it was created through the value and the problems that I solved.
Yeah. And I love that so much because, you know, you could have gone into that so many different ways. Like, you could have gone into that, like, you know, fuck this, like, guys don't got shit. I'm not going to, you know, this sucks. Boo. I'm going to go back to the hall, you know,
right. Yeah.
You know, story over.
Which most people do.
Most
people do.
K&R's doesn't exist. That company never grew. Nothing ever happened. Instead of, like you just said, what's the problem to solve? Like, it doesn't have to be a massive problem. Day one, you started with, hey, can I get a drill? Okay, let's solve that. That's a problem. Let's solve this problem. Okay, now I don't have to use hand tools anymore. Awesome. Yeah. What's the next, you know, all the way up to now look at you with X amount of trucks and gear and making good money. And like, it's just such a cool story. If you look at everybody's story that is successful, there's something like that behind it, where they went in and did something like solve problems with zero expectation. It wasn't like it wasn't a shit attitude. And that's the thing. Like, that's why your attitude is so infectious and effective, you know, in the quality of your life and what you do in life. You go into it with a shitty attitude, like, poor me, this sucks. I don't have the gear. I don't have the drill. I don't have this, that, blah, blah, blah. We all know those guys. We show up with those guys all the time. Like, nobody wants to hang out with them. Nobody wants to help their life get better. You know, what you need around you is good people helping push you forward. So are you trying to be that good person? Like you said, law of attraction, right? The little things you think, the little things you think about, that direction you want to go, that positive attitude, that, you know, what flight lessons, I want the car, I want this and that. You start thinking those things, every decision, every micro decision you make during the day helps steer you towards those things, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Every decision matters. Every single decision matters your entire life. I don't care how small it is. You know, the smallest decisions will lead to massive opportunities. You know, like, we go back to that time I was up on that tower. You know, I could have climbed down and called it a day. I could have. You know, no, a year and a half later, that put me on the side of a helicopter. That changed my life. You know, just staying up there, just toughing it out for another hour. I've had plenty of people work for me that are like that. Like, oh, I can't do this. I need that. I can't do this. I need you to solve problems. I don't need, you know, you to bitch about this, bitch about that. So I'm getting to the point where when I get people like that now, get the fuck out of here. You know, give me somebody else who can solve problems.
And if you're struggling with that attitude, like, maybe you recognize it in yourself. Maybe you recognize when you show up at a job site or on a new company, things aren't like you want them, and you start going down this road of bad attitude. Take a look at who you're surrounding yourself there, like, with. Like, do you need help motivationally to start thinking better and start having a better attitude? So, like, what group are you hanging out with there? Are you, like, naturally going to that guy that's just shitty and has a shitty attitude and is bringing you down? Or are you going to go, you know, hang out with that guy that's kind of off to the side, that looks like he's got his shit together, that nobody's hanging out with because he's not, you know, down in the dumps with everyone else with the shitty attitude?
Yeah, that's the problem. That stuff spreads like cancer, you know? So you got a foreman leading, you know, a group of, you know, 6 guys or whatever, and his just a shit attitude every day. They're not getting nothing done because that shit attitude just equates to the rest of them. You know, the rest of them have a shit attitude because of one person, you know? So if you can replace that one person with somebody with a positive attitude, good work ethic, you know, it just brings it brings happiness to everybody. It's fun to go to work. It's fun to build things. When you get up to a pole and you work out a double dead end, and at the end of it, you're like, holy shit, I just built that. That was amazing. You know, that's a good feeling. But when you go up, your foreman goes up to the pole, oh, we're not fucking doing this because of this or this or whatever, you know, it just leaves you with shit attitude. You have nothing, you know, you didn't do nothing. So you're not happy at the end of it. You're like, fuck, you know. So
it's hard to counteract that shitty attitude too, but if you do it, and if you start to surround yourself with good, positive people who are motivated in life, want to get stronger, want to get smarter, want to do things in life, want to lead a good life, just watch how your life turns out.
Yeah,
That's all. It's
oh yes,
so much better.
yes,
Seek those people out, surround yourself with those.
yeah. I don't even. It's crazy now. Like some people think I'm an asshole, but I just don't. I don't want to surround myself with people's problems all the time. So I avoid that a lot of times, especially like a fitness center. There's 500 people in there. I'll be honest with you that a lot of them, it's their problems. They want to talk about problems, instead of solutions or something that makes them happy. It's always a problem. So I just kind of put my head down. I do my thing. It's hard to work out in your own fitness center for sure. So like, if you can surround yourself, that's a good thing about the car scene. So the people that I've met through the car scene, they don't hate on me because I drive a Lamborghini. They don't think I'm some stuck up prick because I drive a Lamborghini. They are genuinely happy for my success because they all have the same mindset. They're all killing themselves in their own businesses or whatever they're doing. So if you need to surround yourself with happy, successful people, if that's how you want to be. If you want to be negative in the dumps all the time, then hang around people with problems,
Where does this mindset come from with you? Like, where did this come from? Like, it was just always there? Does it come from
No, I don't
family?
think it was always
Did you train it?
I think it's definitely a learned mindset. If you can pay attention to your life, it's definitely learned, because you can get caught up in the negative so easy. You just have to realize that you're getting caught up in it. How do you feel when you're surrounding yourself with those negative people all the time? Or how do you feel when you're around somebody that's positive, and then you create that separation? I have always been like that. I mean, I've always been a go-getter, hard worker and everything like that. I've always been a believer that like my life, where I'm headed in my life is my choice, my decision. I will figure shit out. I will get it done. I've always had that, but I just think the more things I did, the more progress I had in life, I learned those things. Especially like being in authority roles, you really realize the difference in attitudes, positive or negative, and then you just start staying away from that shit or killing the cancer before it becomes a cancer. So
What's your take on failures? How do you deal with failures?
I fail plenty of times, but that's part of it. You are not going to be successful without failures. I have failed a million times. I have fallen flat on my face. I've been denied loans. I've been denied credit cards. I've had people steal from me. You're going to have them. Guys are going to wreck trucks. Guys are going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Believe it or not, even though I run a Wyman-owned company, you wouldn't believe how many tools just magically grow feet and fucking walk away. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in tools, even though the majority of people have a ton of respect for us, you're faced with all that shit all the time. It's yeah.
You need to do an audit on all your employees' garages. Job boxes, personal job.
Every storm, and just to put it in perspective, we take 100 guys on storm. I would say almost every storm, there's $10,000.
You just budget that into your storm now?
You have to. Everybody does. I can tell you right now, everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody does. There's shipments. And it's not, I'm not saying they're stealing, but they just, some sort like leaving a sign.
Sure.
They don't realize that sign costs $250. A wheel chock. They leave a wheel chock in the parking lot, $20.
Yeah.
They leave a road cone, 4 road cones out there. That's $18 a piece. People don't realize how much shit costs.
Yeah.
It adds up real fast.
Truth.
But failure is part of it. I failed in everything. That's how all the lessons were learned. You got to take failures and progress with them. That's how like all the processes that are in place, whether it be K&R or fitness centers, were because of failure. Something that we failed at, or somebody screwed us over, some customer screwed us over, some employee screwed us over. There are all these little mini failures that we just learned lessons from. So you're not just going to be, it's not going to be a walk in the park to success. You are going to fail the whole time. You can't let that get you down. Okay, I fail. That's a problem. How do I turn it into success. How do I solve that problem? That's the difference. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail a lot. So I'm still failing today. Still learning. Still going through the process. I think people need to realize that it's a process. Success, happiness is a process. You need to be progressing in life. If you want to be happy, you need to be progressing. So, and failures come through that. You get better at it. You get better at failing. You know that if I do everything that I can do, it will always work out. But if I get punched in the mouth and I give up, it's over. Now you're disappointed. Now you have a shitty attitude. But if you take that punch in the mouth, you stand back up tomorrow and you take one step forward, you take one step forward the next day and the next day and the next day, you've covered miles before you know it.
I like goals, but I also, it's like a love-hate relationship with goals, because it's like, okay, I set this goal, I reached that objective. Now what? Like, is it just over, or is there something?
No, it's what's next. It's what's
Exactly.
next. That's how I got to the point where I am today. That's how, 37 years old, I own 5 businesses. When I created the first lift, it was like, this is great. It's awesome. What's next though? People aren't, that's where people are not progressing. They're not happy. So they hit a plateau where they go their 9-to-5 job every single day, same people every single day. They're not creating relationships. They're not progressing. So when I created Lyft, it was great. It really was. And we learned a lot of lessons. But once we got that dialed in, I wouldn't say it becomes stagnant, but it becomes like, all right, I know that building these things makes me happy. So what's next? Let's open another one. And they open another one. I literally was like 6 months after opening my second fitness center. 10,000 square foot place is beautiful. And I'm like, what the fuck is next? A&R started 6 months later after I opened up my second fitness center.
That's what I like.
So
I like what you said.
There's all these problems that solve. Every time you solve a problem or face failure or whatever, and you solve that problem, it's followed by happiness. It may be short lived, but then what's next. So, and that's where we're at with K&R. We're gonna open up another yard, another location. We're gonna open up another yard, another location. We just keep on progressing.
Because I like what you said about process, and life is lived in the now. It's not lived in the past, and it's not lived in the future. And that's the thing with goals is, yet great, have objectives in life, have goals, have things that push you towards something, that drive you there, but don't live for that thing. Don't live for the
big thing too. Like, if you do not keep progressing, say you reach a goal or whatever, I want to open this business. That's your goal. You open that business, I reached my goal. But now what? If you don't progress, that thing's going to get taken away from you way fucking faster than it was that it took you to build it.
Absolutely.
And
enjoy that process though too. Like, enjoy that every day building of that thing, or doing that thing, or hanging out with family. Like, enjoy the now. And I think just like so much happiness is in living for the now versus thinking about the past, or thinking about the future, planning for the future. Like, the goals are good, but that's the future thing. It hasn't happened yet. It may never happen. The past is the past. You can't change it. The process is life. And that's what's so fun to live if you get some shit right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I believe me. I live life, I live life. I don't care if I'm going to die. I'm going to live life. I'm not going through life scared. So by any means.
Talk about that, because again, the cars, I've seen you now become a pilot.
Yeah.
So you just have these things you want to do, and you go out and do them. And I love that. And that's what I talk about to people. It's like, have a look at these people. They're doing life. So what's with the pilot thing? Something you always wanted to do? And now?
Yeah. I mean, it's so once I got into aviation through, line work, being around helicopters, it's the excitement that being around aviation, whether it be a helicopter or an airplane, a personal airplane, not a, commercial jet. We've all been on commercial jets. That's no fun. Yeah. But when you're flying your own damn plane, like, it is just, it puts you, sometimes you get put in these situations where it just brings this excitement to you. And then it can also bring peace to you. So like when I travel somewhere, like the biggest thing with the airplane for me is time. I'm so busy now. I don't live near my shop. Our K&R is an hour and 50 minutes from where I actually live. But it's a 7-minute drive to the airport. It takes me 10 minutes to pull out the airplane, and it takes me 23 minutes to fly to the shop.
And way funner.
Yeah, it's way funner. It's just. So the day I became a pilot, I flew back home. I got my new certificate. You know, I'm a private pilot. My first flight by myself, as a pilot, I flew up to my parents' house, 4 hours away, 50-minute flight. So now I can see my parents way more, or my family way more. That's what another thing I allowed to do. On the way back, so I live close to the Adirondack Mountains, Lake Placid, New York. You know, the Olympics, 1980 Olympics. That's where I live. So on one side, on my left-hand side, on the way home, is the mountains. On the right side is Lake Erie. So I got the sun is setting at Lake Erie. The moon is rising over the mountain at the same exact time. Those are things that people will just never see, never get to appreciate in life. And that was just by doing things that were uncomfortable for me. You think the first time I ever flew an airplane, like I was comfortable, I knew what I was doing, goddamn cool. You know, and it's the same thing. The first time I ever flew by myself, that day I solo. This whole time, all these lessons that I had took, I never knew whether I was landing the airplane or not, because my instructor sitting right next to me with his hands on control. No, but when he wasn't there, it was bringing this excitement to my life. It's just amazing. If I can tell anybody that listens to this or whatever, become a pilot. It is the best thing I've ever done for my life ever. You know, any of the businesses, you take it all away. If I had to choose between my car or my airplane, I'm keeping the airplane. Because what it allows me to do is just unreal. I live in Western New York. Maine, Central Maine is an 11-hour drive. I can be up in Maine in 2 hours and 20 minutes. I get up in the morning, fly to Maine, the coast of Maine, land in Portland, Maine, have lobster for lunch, and be back before dinner in my house. My girlfriend and I, one day we got up, let's go to Jersey for breakfast. Jump in the airplane at 6 a.m., go have breakfast. I'm back at my kitchen counter at 10 a.m. You know, it's just, you want to go on a vacation, you know, see you got a long weekend or something. You got 3 days. You can't really go that far. You're miserable driving the whole way, right? You know, you're in a rush to get back. Aviation just takes all that away. It can be exciting when you get situations like, you know, a nice weekly crosswind or something like that, and you gotta land the airplane. It's a skill you have to acquire and learn, and but then other days it can be so peaceful, and it just allows you to do things you just could never do.
It frees up time.
So, and another thing, you don't have to be rich to have an airplane. Everyone thinks you got to be rich to have an airplane. You don't. So my very first airplane was a Grumman Tiger. I paid $46,000 for it, airworthy at $46,000. I did put a lot of money into it. I put almost $100,000 into it with, you know, updated technology and all that. You don't need all that. I could have flown it at $46,000, learned how to use those older instruments, and been just fine. But I owned that airplane for 5 years. I had 150 grand into it. I sold it for 165,000. So I pretty much, airplanes just go up in value. Just as long as you keep care of it or whatever, it'll go up in value. So I flew that thing for free for 5 years.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And like you said,
and that's another thing. I progressed in aviation. You know, I started learning a little Cessna 140 top speed, 90 miles an hour. Went to a Grumman Tiger where top speed was 150 miles an hour. And now I'm in an RB-10, which is 211 miles an hour. My new airplane's a little rocket. So like and that's the thing, like I just progressed in that, and that's where I found happiness progressing in that. So, and the next thing might be a 6-seater someday, a little turboprop or something.
How did you find, when you began to like lessons, like, is it something that I've often thought about this, like we work diggers and buckets and all that kind of stuff. Like, does that translate into like aviation, like just understanding hydraulics and mechanics and how the thing feels and operates? Like, was it somewhat natural to go into aviation?
Yeah, I think so. I think, if you can operate pretty much any, whether it be a skid steer, dozer, or a bucket or whatever, you can figure out an airplane and understand how it works pretty quickly. Flying the airplane was never the problem for me. It was the communication. That's the one thing that made me uncomfortable. When I had to start talking to air traffic control and everything like that, that's when I was nervous, because you got somebody that's looking at you, you don't want to mess up or screw up or anything like that, but you just do it. You just do it, and you got to remember that they're there for us,
Yeah.
and stuff. Same thing when I, first got into line work, and, I get out to a job in New Jersey and they're pulling wire on a 500 job and they got all these terms. I have no fucking idea what's going on, so, but now I can do it just fine,
Right.
So you're uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfort you get.
How long did it take you to get your license?
It took me a lot longer than it would for most people, just because of how busy I was. I was traveling all over the country for work. So every time I was always catching up on a lesson pretty much. So it took me 3 years, but I stuck with it. That's the thing. No matter what, stick with it. Like I knew when I first started flying, I want that. Like, I will achieve that. I will. I went out and bought my airplane after like my 4th lesson. I'm a student pilot that has his own airplane.
So dope.
Yeah. That is the best thing I've ever done for my life, man. I recommend it to anybody. It's amazing. It's amazing what it'll do for you.
It's been on my bucket list for a long time.
Just go do it. Just make the decision right now.
All right, done.
When we're done with this conversation, you look up the closest airport to you, and you call them and ask them if they have a flight school or a CFI, which is a certified flight instructor, and you go take your first lesson. I'm telling you, and just chip away.
Yeah.
Chip away. Say, it's going to cost you $6 to $8 to become a pilot. You learn in somebody else's airplane. Just chip away. Do a lesson a week. Do a lesson a month. I did a lesson a month. I would skip 3 months sometimes. It took me a long time, but
you can just you could just bank them like that though. Hey, like you could just keep going, like chip away at, like you said, you can leave some time in between lessons, and that works out. You don't have to crank it out in a certain amount of time.
No. If you cranked it out, you'd probably get it done in 8 months.
Interesting. I got another buddy that I've been wanting to get on this podcast for a while. He actually, a lot like you. I'd love you guys to talk. His name's Derek Halsey. He's from Port Angeles, Washington. I always admired Derek because I met him in South Texas, and he's like, okay, I want to be a lineman. Becomes a lineman. And he's like, oh, I want to be a pilot. Quits line work for 3 months, becomes a pilot, buys his own airplane. Now he's like, okay, I'm going to go do line work again. So what does he do? He's like, I'm going to go to California for a few months. He flies to California, signs the books, jumps on a crew for a couple months, taking people around, flying to Cali, goes back, and he's like, okay, I'm going to start a business now. I'm going to start renovations. I'm going to do this.
Like my story. Yeah. It's pretty much my story.
It's exactly. He owns multiple businesses, pilot, flies helicopters, just lives his life, does what he wants to do in life, accomplishes that thing, and then just carries on and doesn't think too much about what other people say or whatever. Just
I definitely got that point. Like back when we did this first podcast or whatever, I had that car sitting in my garage. I didn't want anybody to know I had it, but people talking shit, So now it's just gotten to the point where I know what I do, the value that I provide to people, So it's I want to be an inspiration. Whoever's listening to this, anybody listening to this or anybody out there, there's plenty of success for all of us. You don't need to, look down on somebody because they went and did something. Go and fucking do it. Just take a step forward, take your idea and run with it, and do not stop. Do not ever give up. Put in the work. You will get there. You will get there. So that's all it takes. I'm happy for people like that. Anybody chasing their dreams, accomplishing things, making shit happen, buying airplanes, buying a dream car, a dream boat or whatever. I'm happy for you. I want you to do it. It's great.
And you don't ever have to think about, just to add to that, you don't ever have to do the same thing for your entire life. You can come and go. Like line work, for example. It's great. It's an awesome job. It's a great career. You don't have to stay in it for 40 years. It's not like I grew up in a small forestry and mining town. I have friends that have fathers. I have relatives that did this, but they got in a sawmill when they were 18 years old, pushing a broom, and they worked their way up, and they just stayed in that sawmill for 45 years. That's great.
Yep.
It worked for them. That was their life. Not knocking it. Those people are needed.
Yeah.
But if that's not you,
If they're happy.
yeah. If you're happy, that's what you want in life. That's freaking awesome. Go do it.
Yeah.
But if that's not you, don't think that you have to do that. So just because you got a line ticket, did line work for 15, 20 years, and you want out of it, don't think you can't get out of it. Don't think you have to, take a chance, do something.
Line work is an incredible platform. So for whatever you want to do, I use line work as a platform to start the business that I had. In 2009, or no, not 2012, when I topped out, I became a lineman. I went through processing to be a state trooper. I really wanted the job to be, at that time, I don't want to be a cop today with everything going on, but at that time, that was the fucking job. You are a man when it comes to law enforcement. The state of New York is a New York State trooper. And the benefits of it, you're retired in 20 years. I would have been 25 or 45 years old and retired. But I was like, you know what? If I do this right, I can still retire at 45, and I will. I'm only 37. I will be retired, or at least on my own terms at 45. So I use line work, the money you make it, as long as you're not stupid with the money and go out and buy those snowmobiles and those jet skis and the boats and the cars and everything like that and overextend yourself. If you're smart with the money that you make in line work, you can do whatever you want. You can start your own business. You can save your own money. Here's the thing about money. If you save $11 a day for 30 years and put it in the S&P 500, you'd be a multimillionaire. It's $11 a day, $300 a month.
They're probably blowing it on Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool, man.
Line work is amazing. So another thing about line work, especially from the contractor side, you want to live life. Say you don't need everything. You just want a nice little house somewhere. You want your bills paid for. You want to start a family, raise a couple of kids. You can go out and make a bunch of money for 6 months, chase a big job, take 6 months off. Why can't you do that? You can do whatever you want to do, and line work is a great platform to do that, especially from the contractor side.
100% is. Totally is. It's a great starting point. Just don't think you got to do it forever. Chase your dreams, chase goals, live in the moment. It's a great message. I love it. That's why I love talking to you.
Yeah.
I've had you for about an hour and a half. Great conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about quick before we drop off?
Can I cut this out if you need to later or whatever? Can I use your platform to maybe grow the storm list a little bit?
Yeah.
Anybody listening to this, we're growing our storm list. We're getting pretty big. I just bought 13 more trucks the other day. Looking to maybe start a yard outside of Philly, I think. So anybody in, the Northeast or anybody from Ohio, we're probably only a couple hours. Guys from Local 71. I've currently got about 3,000 guys on my text list. If you're working, obviously you can't come with me or whatever. I don't want you quitting your job to come with me. But I've got, you probably could do this on your post as well.
Yep.
The number. Oh, there it is. So if I can get guys to text, I got a phone number. I'll give you a phone number. It's 833-962-1295. I just need your name, your phone number, a copy of your ticket, or at least your ticket number, your classification, whether you're a JL or an operator, and your CDL class, either A or B. You guys can text all that information, that number. We'll get you on a storm roster, and when a storm hits, a mass text goes out to everybody. If you're not working, you can get to the shop or get to wherever the location is in X amount of time. You're more than welcome to come with us. I'd love to fucking have you.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, heck yeah. If I'd encourage anybody to take you up on that. It's a good deal.
Yeah.
I wish you the most success, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. If you need it, you can follow us KR Utilities on Instagram. There's no Facebook or nothing like that. My personal Instagram went back every year. I like to take a break from the bullshit and the negativity that usually goes around social media at this time. So every year I take a break, but you can share my personal hashtag, and hopefully I can inspire some people. I mean, you definitely follow me on there, and you can see some cool cars and some airplanes and stuff like that as well. But
Yeah, it's an interesting life, man. That's I like following you. It's super motivating.
my life's not bad at all. But I can tell you not anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. I am an idiot. I am an idiot. I tell people all the time I'm an idiot. I graduated high school with a C average. I did graduate college with like a B minus there. I got a little better. I just progressed in life and got a little better. I just figured shit out. I worked hard. I solved problems. I'm not a runner. I tell people like I'm not a runner. If you're a runner and you get next to a treadmill next to me and you want to race, I'm either gonna die trying or I'm gonna pass out. Trying to beat you. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks a lot for the conversation. Definitely going to hit you up a lot more and ask you some more questions about business and flying and all that kind of shit, but enjoyed the convo. So thanks a lot, buddy.
yes, sir, man. All right, buddy. Thanks so much.